it's Carol Morrock at carolmorrock.com. Welcome to Solo and Smart, my YouTube channel. And I'm excited to say this is my second interview today of Jeanette Liardi. And we just talked a little while ago in our first interview, and Jeanette has she's a social gerontologist. She was also a family caregiver for both her parents. And from that experience, plus especially from her education in gerontology and her recent studies, she has learned some really inspirational aspects about growing older and aging. And so after our first interview just a few minutes ago, I'm feeling so much more confident about growing older, which I think we all need to do that. We all need to think about some of the things that we appreciate about ourselves and appreciate about our experiences, what we have learned, what we can take with us as we move forward. So welcome, Jeanette. Thank you for joining me again.
Thank you, Carol. Well, it's great to be back so soon. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and today we're going to talk about disrupting ageism. However, before we ended our last conversation, you talked about, I love that term, personal appropriateness, because I think it fits, well, at least it fits mine. I can't speak for others. I love the fact, instead of gauging ourselves, engaging our experiences, engaging how we should act or what we should do according to the way society sees us, or the way our parents have, saw us, or the way anyone, instead of looking from their perspective, let's change that up and come from our own personal appropriateness. And you brought that up a little while ago, and I love that idea. I think, because I think it's more freeing of just looking at ourselves as individuals rather than, and people, and what we have learned and our values that have really expanded. So let's talk about that, but I want to maybe focus on the disrupting ageism, because I think that's a really important topic. Because many of my members in the Facebook group, I noticed that we have a big tendency to be ageist, right? Mm-hmm. We think we can't do things anymore because of our age, or because we feel physically unable. Well, I think there's a lot of things we can switch that up and start thinking about what can I do? Let's expand that box.
Right. Well, you're anticipating what I'm about to say, so we're on the same page for sure. First of all, I want to say, when you introduced me just now, you talked about my background in social gerontology and that I was a caregiver. But there's another very important reason why I'm qualified to talk about aging. I am an older adult. I'm 69 years old. I tell people that I not only admit my age, I declare my age. We need to be declaring our age. And especially as women in our society, we are judged all the time about how we look, and we need to stay young and not have any wrinkles and all of this. Although men get that too. Men are getting Botox too, believe it or not. So I say declare your age, because that should be the demonstration. That demonstrates the fact that we've lasted this long. So we're doing something right to get this far. So when you're talking about personal appropriateness, and you said that there are ways in which we should be mixing it up and doing other kinds of things. One big way to disrupt ageism, again, starts within our heads. Yes, older adults, we can be the most ageist people of all. Why? Because we've got decades of experience hearing these messages from the media that if once you get past a certain point, you're past your sell-by date. You've outlived your usefulness. And we get these messages all the time. So we have ingrained these messages, and we begin to think, well, I can't do that. I'm too old to do that. There's some phrases that we tell ourselves that we need to be aware of as signals. So when you say, if you ever say, I'm too old for this, what do you mean by old? are you really is age what's stopping you? Or do you think that it's not appropriate that you should be doing this? Or that you don't have the ability to do it because you haven't learned it yet, and you think you're too old to learn? You know, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Plenty of us old dogs have lots of tricks to share with a whole bunch of other people. So, so when we say I'm too old for this, or I can't do this at my age, well, that seems to imply this kind of appropriateness. It's not appropriate for me. I can't wear, you know, what I want to wear at my age. It doesn't look right on an old person. Well, really? Does it really? The only way we're going to start changing people's minds is if we defy those expectations. So one of the biggest ways of disrupting ageism is to be open to surprising yourself and to surprising others. Go to places where they don't expect an older person to be. If you want to go dancing at a club at 2 a.m, go dance in a club at 2 a.m. Now, you might get looks. Be prepared that people may think you're silly or you're out of place or whatever. But you know what? You planted a seed in their minds that at some point when they're your age, they may entertain the fact that, yeah, I can still do that. So that's one big way of disrupting ageism, is to do the unexpected. Another way to disrupt ageism is to demand that society reality checks its expectations of you. If somebody tells you, really, you want to do that? Aren't you too old to do that? Ask them, why do they think that? Why do you think I'm too old to, you know, go dancing or to go mountain climbing or whatever it is you want to do? Well, you know, engage them in a conversation and see what their expectations are. And then you can kind of, especially if you know what our new acquired brain skills are as we get older, you can educate someone else as to say, hey, did you know that older people can do X, Y, and Z? So that's a way to disrupt ageism, is to be the educator. You know, I'm a community educator, but when I teach class, whole presentations, I say, you're my ambassadors now. You need to spread the word about the good things about aging. Another way we can disrupt ageism is to question and change any situation that makes age an issue. So, for example, if you're sitting at a meeting, let's say a meeting of a policy group, a governmental meeting, or whatever, and you look around and you see that there aren't minorities in that group, your mind would say, hey, why aren't there any minorities? Or why aren't there any women here? Or why aren't there any men here? Do the same thing about age. Why aren't there enough old people here? Or why aren't there enough young people here? By the way, ageism goes both ways. We can have false stereotyped ideas about what younger people are like. They're too young to understand. They're not mature enough. They're too self-engaged. We need to dispel our prejudices about young people as well. So that's another way to disrupt ageism. Ageism is a huge category. Middle-aged people, there's ageism toward them, especially in the workplace. There is ageism toward teenagers, ageism toward children. So all of us suffer from it. And as you were saying, Carol, before, this is the way I like to put it about broadening your horizons. Think and, not or. So age is not either you're old or you're young. Either you're in bad shape or you're in good shape. It's not an either or. It's not a zero-sum game. Yes, don't be Pollyanna-ish about aging. Yes, there are some deficits. Our bodies start to experience changes that are, can be really inconvenient and painful to us. But that's not the only thing about us. So think not, well, I'm falling apart, so I can't do this. It's think and. So for example, I need glasses now. My hearing is not so great as it was. And, not or, and I think I'm the best writer I've ever been. I think I'm the best teacher I've ever been. So what's your and? If you want to disrupt ageism, think about your and. Yes, I have trouble getting out of bed in the morning, or I have bed arthritis, and I can teach someone how to fly cast fishing in a trout stream, and I can teach people in the workplace how to be better teammates. So look at your and. That's a big way to disrupt ageism, is always come from a point of and. And here's the bottom line. People have a positive attitudes about aging actually can live about 7.5 years longer than people who don't. So it's really a health benefit to come at aging from a positive viewpoint. There's something called the U curve of happiness, where people tend to be happiest at the beginnings and the ends of their lives. And it's because of this sense of, as we talked about before in our other interview, emotional regulation. We have a better take on when bad things happen to us. We're more resilient, we're more flexible because we've gone through bad things before. So we know how to get out of the bad things or deal with the bad things. So there's a lot of good ways to disrupt ageism. And one of the things we can pay attention to is our language. What words do we use to describe old people, the elderly? We should not be lumped into a group. No teenager would like to be addressed. All you teenagers are all alike. No teenager would want to hear that. Well, no old person wants to hear all you old people are all alike. Words like doddering and cranky and geezer, those words should be, taken out. Oh, one phrase I can't stand is over the hill. These over the hill birthday cards. Okay. You know what I tell people? We're never over the hill. We're at the top of a certain hill. And the advantage of being at the top of that hill is that we can see other hills in the distance that we couldn't see when we were at the bottom of the hill. So we are eternal climbers. We get to the top of a hill and we see another hill left to climb. We are the master climbers. We are also the master changers. One very ageist expression is, old people don't like to change. They resist change. Some old people don't like to change, but you know what? Some kids don't like to change either. Some teenagers don't like to change. So when I hear that old people don't like to change, I say, what was a telephone like when you were a kid? What is a telephone like now? You can handle a telephone when you were a kid. If you have a smartphone now, you have changed. What was a washing machine like when you were a kid? What was a car like? We are not only the master climbers, we are the master changers. So if people want to know what it's like to adjust to change, and it's not just technology, it's losing, seeing changes in our bodies that we have to cope with, losing people close to us, our peers. That's another inevitable part of aging, as our friends our age begin to die. So we have to cope with that. And all throughout our life, how many times have you changed jobs? Have you changed where you live? So we're the master changers. So those are just some ways of disrupting ageism.
Well, I love that. I love that term, master changers. That's great. Yes. And what's your and?
Exactly. What's your and?
That's wonderful. Thank you, Jeanette. So can you tell me how our audience can find you?
Sure. I have a website. It's www.JeanetteLiardi.com. And I'm sure you'll spell it on your page for them.
I sure will.
And you can reach me at Jeanette@JeanetteLiardi.com.
Great. Now, are there any last tips that you might want to offer us in terms of learning to appreciate ourselves more the older we get?
I think one big tip I can say is review your life. Go through your life in your mind and think of all the places you've been, all the people you've known, all the things you've done, the many things you've done, and keep thinking about that. Make that list really long, because you have done a lot. And for each element on the list, think about ways in which you can apply that experience to what you're going through now. Because we are, there's another phrase I don't like, the silver tsunami, that there are a whole bunch of us old people, and we're going to wipe out Social Security, and we're going to wipe out Medicare, and we're a drain on the resources. Think about the fact that we're not a silver tsunami, we are silver reservoirs. We have this water that's been this life-giving element that's being held back by society. What would happen if those floodgates opened and allowed us to penetrate more into society with all our gifts, our talents, our wisdom, our experiences? So for that long list of items that you've come up with everything you've known, everything you've done, think about how you can keep using those experiences today. Don't freeze yourself in time. Don't say, I'm an old person, that I'm done. You're not done. You're just beginning. Our society has to catch up with us. That's the way we have to disrupt ageism, is let society know, boy, you're missing a whole lot when you don't include us.
Wow. Well, thank you, Jeanette Liardi. You definitely have got me thinking differently, and I'm sure our audience has starting to think differently too. What an inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you everyone for joining us today. please subscribe to the YouTube channel and share this video with a friend. Thank you.